Namaskar everybody. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Thank you for joining into the satsang today. So let us begin with our topic of today. We will talk about the quality of kindness or daya today. And we will learn through two stories how it is important for this quality and how it can please the Lord having this quality of daya. So the first story is that of a golden mongoose. So this story appears in the Mahabharata. So it is said that after the Kurukshetra Yuddha, King Yudhisthira performed the great Ashwameda Yagna. So at that time of the Yagna, it was a very grand, sacrifice. There was a lot of, now when we say grand sacrifice, the grandness of any yajna is determined by how many brahmanas came there, how much of rituals were performed, how strongly the agni blazed, how much of the offerings were taken, and most importantly, how much dana was done by the person performing the yajna. So King Yudhishthira gave away a lot of his wealth in this yajna, and everybody, all the people who had come there, everyone got something, and everybody was loudly proclaiming that yes, this is the greatest yajna that has been done so far. We've never seen any yajna done on a scale like this. So much, how generous is King Yudhishthira, so much dana he has done, and like this people were talking about it. So at that time, suddenly they noticed that into that yajna-shala, one golden mongoose came there. Now, normally mongoose is, it's a small animal and it has a grayish brown kind of color. But the strange thing about this mongoose was that it had half of its body was golden in color and the remaining half was the normal mongoose color. So what it did is that mongoose came there and it started rolling on the ground near the Yagneshala. So it rolled and then it turned its head and looked at its own body, and it saw that the color of that body had remained the same. So it made a proclamation. It spoke in a human voice and it said, "This is not a great sacrifice. I can proclaim that it is really not such a great sacrifice." Everybody was shocked that how are you saying this? Who are you to judge and say this? On what basis are you claiming that it is not such a great sacrifice? Yudhishthira has done so much dana, so much charity, he has given away so many things. How do you claim that it is not a great sacrifice? So then this mongoose says, I will tell you, you must be all wondering as to my strange appearance and who am I to claim all this. So anyway, I will tell you the story of what happened with me in the past, and then you can judge for yourself whether this has been really a good sacrifice or not. So it told that mongoose narrated the previous whatever had happened with it. So it told a story of how there was once an old poor man, and that man lived with his wife, his son, and daughter-in-law. They were very poor. He was a brahmana, so he used to have his livelihood by begging alms from people and eating. They would all survive on whatever was obtained by begging. So as it is, they were poor. They never had anything to keep for themselves. And above that, they were depending on the charity of other people. And imagine when somebody like this is there in normal times also, they have difficulty in, getting enough. But then there was a famine that struck that land. So everywhere there was no agriculture, there was no food available, there was no rain, so it was a drought, and people were, not having food to eat, not having water to drink. People were even dying of hunger and thirst, and so on. So in that condition, obviously, they had starved for many days together. And finally, one day, this man managed to get a little rice by begging from somebody. Somehow he, got a little quantity of rice. He brought it home and gave it to his wife and told her to cook it because they had not eaten for many days together. So he they cooked that rice and then they divided that food into 4 parts for each of them. That daughter-in-law was pregnant, so she was also given one part. The son, the father, and mother, everybody. There were 4 parts which were made of the food which has been cooked. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and they saw that one guest had come there. Somebody had come there, and he was in a very bad condition. He begged them that please, if you have something to eat, please give me something to eat. I have not eaten for weeks together, and so on. So it is told in Sanatan Dharma that Atiti Devo Bhava, somebody who comes, an Atiti, that person, the guest, has to be seen as a form of the Lord himself. There is some, interesting thing about this word Atiti. So we will talk about that later. But anyway, this guest came there, and now what to do? There was no other food. There was only that food which they had divided and kept ready for the 4 of them to eat. So first, the man, the head of the family, he offered his food to that guest. Now, that guest ate that part of the food, but he said, I'm still hungry. My hunger has not gone. That was too little for me. So then the wife says, I will offer my food. That man tells her how you're already in such great hunger, why you should give like that. She says, no, you are my husband, you have given. It is my duty to support you in whatever you do. I'm your ardhangi, so I will also give. And that lady gives the food. The guest eats that food, and then he says, okay, but still I'm not, fully satisfied. It's been weeks since I ate, and so on. So then the son says, as my father's son, it is my duty to also carry out the dharma and to support my father. So you take my portion also, and he also gives. Still, the guest is not satisfied. And he says, if little more I had, I would be completely, my hunger would be assuaged. So then this daughter-in-law, now everybody says, no, you are pregnant already. You are in great distress. That baby also has not had anything inside your womb. So you please eat. It's okay. We will manage something. She says, no, as the daughter-in-law of the family, it is my duty also to participate in whatever dharma you are doing. So she also gives her part. Now, all the 4 of them, they have given up their food, and they are standing happily watching that guest eat. And the minute that guest finishes eating the daughter-in-law's portion also, suddenly he turns into Dharma Devata. He says, I was testing you. I was checking to see what is the level of, compassion that you have. What is the level of Atiti Satkar that you will do. How far you are able to offer hospitality. I was checking your ability to sacrifice. So saying that, Dharma Devata manifests there and he blesses them, and it is said that he gives them moksha at that point of time, or he takes them along with him to the higher planets. Now, this mongoose is narrating all this story. So what had happened is, when all these events were taking place, the mongoose had been there. It had seen where all these events were taking place. And then it had seen that in that place where that guest was fed, a few grains of rice had fallen on the ground there. So the mongoose, it was a famine-struck area, isn't it? The animal also didn't have anything to eat. So the mongoose went and it tried to eat that whatever rice grains were fallen on the ground, on the floor. It tried to eat that, and in doing so, it was rolling on that ground. And suddenly it noticed that its body, that side of the body which had rubbed on that floor, had turned golden. So that was the conclusion of the mongoose. Why did its body turn golden? Because so great was the sacrifice of that family, of that poor Brahmana and his family, that because it touched the few grains of rice which had been given as dana by the family, its body had turned golden. So the mongoose said, that is why I came to this Ashwameda Yagna of Yudhisthira Maharaj, and I rolled on the floor here, and I was watching to see whether it will turn golden, because if it is indeed a great sacrifice, then the other side of my body, which I rubbed here on the ground, should have turned golden. The fact that nothing happened to me indicates that this is not such a great sacrifice after all. So this is one of the stories about how somebody had compassion And when in that compassion they served someone else, it was considered as a really great sacrifice. It was a golden sacrifice, we can say. Related to this, there is another story of one of the great devotees of Lord Vishnu, called King Rantideva. So this Rantideva was a very great bhakta of Vishnu, and he was so immersed in bhakti that he had begun to see the entire world and all beings, everyone, everywhere, as a manifestation of Lord Vishnu. Now, again, once in his kingdom, out of the blue, everything was going fine. There was a good crop, everything had been done well, everybody was happy. At that point of time, suddenly out of the blue, there was a famine that struck that land. First, there was a lot of rain and floods and all that, and everything got washed away. Then after that, there was a famine, there was drought, no rain at all. Again, similar condition like what we saw in the previous story. So all this happened and everybody was very poor, and then the people to whom they will turn in times of trouble, they turn to their king. So this Rantideva said, what is the use of me having all the wealth? Whatever I have is for you only. And he donated all his wealth and gave away everything that he had in charity to all the people so that they could somehow, live their life. Now, after having given away everything, it got to such a condition where the king himself and his family were starving. They didn't have anything to eat. They had given away everything they had, and they were in such a poor condition that they themselves didn't have food to eat. Finally, one day, some stranger passing by brought a little food and gave it to them. And they were about to sit down and have their food. Again, as they were getting ready to eat their food, the door, somebody knocked at the door. There was a guest who came there. So Rantideva saw who was the guest. It was a Brahmana. So Rantideva called that person in, very nicely welcomed him, made him sit and said, you are like God. You are Atithi Devo Bhava. So you are like God. And he served him one little part of the food. Now the Brahmana was happy and satisfied, and he went away and he blessed the king and went away. Now, as they were sitting there was little food left. So it was less, but still it was there. Some part was there. So as they were sitting down to eat that part, Rantideva and his family, there was suddenly again a knock on the door. And this time it was a beggar who came there. He was dressed in very tattered clothes. He was hardly hanging on to a stick and very little energy. And he came there and he begged for food. Rantideva gave away another part of the food to him, and that man got satisfied and went away. Next, there was another man who came there, and he had some dogs with him. So he said, me and my dogs, we have not eaten from weeks together, so we are very hungry. Please give us something. So Rantideva, whatever was left, the food, he collected all that and he gave that away to this man and his dogs also. Finally, they said, okay, fine. So what if we don't have food to eat? At least we have water. And there was just one small kamandalu filled with water, and Rantideva and his family decided that, okay, we will consume this water and stay like that. As they were picking up that kamandalu to drink the water out of it, there was another knock on the door. And this time it was a Chandala who came there. And this Chandala who came there, he also begged that, I'm very thirsty. I have not drunk water from so many days. Please give me some water to drink or I'm going to die of thirst, he said. And this Rantideva Raja very willingly gave away that kamandalu to that Chandala. The Chandala said, I should not take it. No, I'm a Chandala, so I'm an untouchable person and I will pollute it. Then you can't drink out of it. And nobody gives like that water to a Chandala and like that, he said. Then Rantideva said, what is this? What are you talking about it? You are also, there is Antaryami Narayana in you also. There is Lord in me also. Then what is the difference? This Deha, this Jati, this Chandala and me being the king and all this status and all these things, they are only part of a make-believe world. That is not the reality. The reality is that in you also Vishnu is there, in me also Vishnu is there. Then when Vishnu is there in all of us, then where is the question of one person polluting something else? And he forced that Chandala and gave him the water. The minute he did this, at that point of time, Lord Vishnu, along with Brahma, Indra, and Devas, appeared there. And even Yama came there. And they disclosed to Rantideva that actually this was a test which we had set to you. What had happened was that in Vaikunta, there had been a discussion about who is a great devotee, whom the Lord considers to be his great devotee. And at that point of time, Vishnu had said that Rantideva is my biggest devotee and I am very fond of him. So all these other devatas, they had felt, jealous that what is so great about this man? Why Vishnu is saying that he is his biggest devotee? So they wanted to test him and see. And all the devatas, they came in the form of that Brahmana who came first, in the form of the beggar, in the form of the man, and that man's dogs. They were all the devas who had come to test. And they were all satisfied with the devotion or with the daya and compassion of Rantideva. But Yama was not yet, convinced. So he came as the ultimate test in the form of who was considered as an untouchable. And he put the king to the final test. And Rantideva passed that test with flying colors. Why? Because he was able to see that it is indeed the Lord who is living in all beings. So, pleased by this quality of Rantideva, Lord Vishnu granted him moksha at that very instance. So, from both these stories, we can understand there's a common thread that runs to these stories, isn't it? So, we can understand that it is a quality of being able to feel compassion for the other person, the ability to share what one has with other people, the ability to not think of self-interest. These qualities are what make a person superior, and they make him one who is loved by the Lord. It is not enough for us to love the Lord. The Lord also has to recognize and accept our bhakti and consider us as his devotee, isn't it? So this quality of daya or compassion is one that will endear us to the Lord. I mentioned that during the previous story about this idea of atithi. Why is that word atithi so relevant? Tithi means date, isn't it? Tithi means a date, a particular day and time. So atithi means without tithi. Somebody who arrives without prior information, that person is called as an atithi. So in the previous times, we used to go freely to each other's places, relatives' places, friends' house. We would drop in unexpectedly. But now what has become the norm? We have all, whoever comes to our house, they are no longer atithi, they are tithi, because they fix up the time, isn't it? We check with the other person. We see if they are going to be available. We ask if we are not going to inconvenience them, and we go. So actually the concept of atithi, that you should be able to accord all respect with lot of affection and love to anyone who arrives even unexpectedly without any prior information. Are we able to do that in today's times? Many times we feel if somebody is coming, we feel it is an imposition on us, or we think that, oh, it is going to upset my routine, or we have such thoughts. And many times we complain that they could have told us before that they were going to come. Now they have come suddenly like this, isn't it? So how far are we away from the ideal which is represented by both that Brahmana's family in the Mongoose story, as well as by King Rantideva? So what we can learn from these two stories? Many times they say, that righteousness, dharmic, buddhi, dharma, all this does not go well with hunger. When a person is hungry, then that hunger predominates everything. And people are ready to do even great misdeeds to satisfy their hunger. But from these two stories, we can see that quite the opposite is also possible. Provided one has a dharma chintana, provided one has been always on the righteous path, And most importantly, provided one is able to see the Lord in the other person, in the other being, whether it is a human being or it is an animal or whatever it may be, the ability to see the Lord in other people is what will make us compassionate towards them. So that is the ultimate. Like whenever we are studying the scriptures or whatever sadhana we are doing, the ultimate goal of that sadhana is what? To attain a state of samatva, that we are able to look at each entity, every individual as being an amsha of the Paramatma. If we are able to reach that, that is the ultimate stage. So that kind of samadrishti we have to be able to develop. Many times we spend our life in being self-centered. We are concerned about our own well-being. We are concerned about ourselves getting ahead in our life. We are concerned about what is good for me, what is not so good for me, and so on. All the time we are looking at ourselves only. Now that kind of self-centeredness will cause us to not develop in the quality of kindness towards other people. So we have to think consciously of going beyond what is comfortable for me, of stepping outside of my comfort zone to be able to do any kind of help to others. Actually, as Swami Vivekananda says, if there is somebody whom I can help, then I should not feel, that, oh, that man should feel grateful that I'm helping him. No, instead it is I who should feel grateful that that man is in need. Because he is in need, I am having the opportunity to do something for him and become bigger, isn't it? So that kind of attitude we should cultivate. Then the concept of who is an adhama, who is a madhyama, and who is an uttama. So somebody who wants their comfort at any cost, even if you want to be comfortable by hurting other people, that is the adhama person. That is a reflection of the tamo guna in an individual. Then there are people who say that I want to be comfortable. Okay, I will not hurt somebody else for it, but I will not go out of the way to do anything good to anybody. I want to be comfortable and I will just see to my comfort. That comes out of the rajoguna, and that is the madhyama individual. And then we have the person who is uttama. Who is that? Somebody who is guided by the sattva guna. Somebody who says that never mind if I have to undergo suffering, but I want to do good to others. I don't want others to suffer because of it. That is the uttama vyakti. So out of these, it is not possible. Just like we can't have sattva guna all the time, we may not have tamo rajo guna all the time. Sometimes we may be good to other people. Sometimes we may think only of ourselves. But our aim should be to try and go further and further towards being uttama most of the time. So that should be our journey. In fact, this quality of daya, Swami Vedanta Deshikan, he equates daya to Devi. And he says, just like Lord has Shri Devi, Bhu Devi, Neela Devi, and different consorts, daya is also a Devi who is a consort of the Lord. And she is the one who always keeps recommending for all of us to the Lord. That is his concept. And in praise of the Lord's mercy, he sang a stotra called Daya Shatakam, 100 verses to the Daya of Lord Venkateshwara. Then there is also the concept which is told by the Acharyas that if you observe the eyes of the Lord, in Puri, Lord Jagannath has very big round eyes. They are so big that they take up most of his face. And if you see Lord Venkateshwara eyes in Tirupati, they are half or almost fully closed, like, very little open. So what is the significance of this large eyes of Jagannath versus the almost closed eyes of Lord Venkateshwara? It is said that Jagannath has large eyes because he's searching the smallest good that one of his bhaktas does. He wants to be able to catch the bhakta doing the good thing, and he wants to appreciate that. So that is the Lord's daya with those large big eyes. And what about Lord Venkateshwara then? Why are his eyes almost closed? They signify that whatever dosha my devotee has, I will not look at those doshas. I will not look at the defects in my devotee. That is why Venkateshwara has almost closed eyes. So the Lord is showing by his own gunas, by his own actions to us, that how important it is to have the quality of kindness, compassion, to feel for others, to be able to go out of the way to do good to others. So we must also try and imbibe these qualities. The shloka that we are seeing today also is a reflection of this same importance of this quality only. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the fourth skanda, there is a very beautiful shlokas. There's a very beautiful shloka. It talks about how one can please the Lord. So it says, Dayaya sarva bhuteshu santushtya yena kenava sarvendriyopashantyacha tushyattashu janardanaha. So it says that by showing daya to all living beings, it doesn't say human beings, living beings, by being somehow or the other satisfied with whatever one has, and by restricting our sense enjoyment. When somebody does these three things, then one can very quickly make Lord Janardana happy. And out of these three things that we are supposed to do to please the Lord, the first one it talks about is the quality of daya. So we must try and adopt this quality in our life so that it will make the Lord happy with us and we will be able to progress faster on the spiritual path. So I hope that we will try and be able to adopt this in our life and God will bless us to be able to do it. So we have only about 9 minutes left. I have taken a lot of time today. So Usha, will you sing the bhajan now? Yeah, we can hear you, ma. Go ahead.
Okay. Hari Chitta Satya Namma Hari Chitta Satya Nara Chitta Ke Bandadu Lavaleshana Deyadu Hari Chitta Satya Namma Hari Chitta Satya ಮಡದಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಮೋಹ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರ ಚಿತ್ತ ಮಡದಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಮೋಹ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರ ಚಿತ್ತ ಮಧುವ್ಯಾಗದಿರುವುದು ಹರಿಚಿತವಯ್ಯ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ಕುದುರೆ ಅಂಗಣದಾನೆ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರ ಚಿತ್ತ ಪದಚಾರಿಯಾಗೋದು ಹರಿಚಿತವಯ್ಯ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರ ಚಿತ್ತ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರ ಚಿತ್ತ ದುರಿತವ ಕಳೆವುದು ಹರಿಚಿತವಯ್ಯ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ನರಚಿತಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದದ್ದು ಲವಲೇಶ ನಡೆಯದು ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ. Thank you.
Thank you, Usha. Are there some more paragraphs? We still have time. You can sing, no problem.
Yeah, I thought maybe you,
No. There are still 6 minutes. You please go ahead and sing the remaining part also.
Okay, Akka. 1 second, Akka. Just close there. ವಿಧ ವಿಧ ಯಾತ್ರೆಯ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರ ಚಿತ್ತ ವಿಧ ವಿಧ ಯಾತ್ರೆಯ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರ ಚಿತ್ತ ಒದಗಿ ಬರುವ ರೋಗ ಹರಿಚಿತವು ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಹರಿಚಿತ ಸತ್ಯ Sada Annadanava Bayasodu Narachita Sada Annadanava Bayasodu Narachita Udarake aಳುವುದು ಹರಿಚಿತ್ತವಯ್ಯ ಹರಿಚಿತ್ತ ಸತ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಹರಿಚಿತ್ತ ಸತ್ಯ ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಬಯಸೋದು ನರಚಿತ್ತ ದುರಿತವ ಕಳೆವುದು ಹರಿಚಿತ್ತವಯ್ಯ ಹರಿಚಿತ್ತ ಸತ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಹರಿಚಿತ್ತ ಸತ್ಯ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Very nice, Usha. Thank you so much. This is one of the songs which I have heard my sister also sing, and it's so meaningful. I think it talks about, it is giving different examples about what is that, man proposes, God disposes, kind of, that whatever
Yes.
man wishes, those are one set of things, and whatever God wishes is something else, isn't it, Usha?
Correct. Correct, Akka.
Yeah. So it's a very meaningful bhajan.
Yeah, Akka.
We should understand the meaning of that, and be able to accept that whatever happens, it is by the wish of God. There are two ways of looking at events that happen in our life, isn't it? One is we can say, what is happening is my prarabdha, and I have done something because of which I'm experiencing all this. That is one way to go about things. The other way is that you say that everything that is happening, it is as per God's wish. All is happening for the best. He knows what is good for me, and he's taking me through this so that it is going to be good for me ultimately. The other day I saw somebody had put up, a message. There are some people who send these messages every morning. So there was somebody who sent me this message which said, don't ask God to change your situation, because he has sent the situation to change you. So see it from that perspective. So I hope that God will bless us with the grace, with his grace, so that we are able to, do all these things which help to purify us and take us ahead towards the Lord. So now it is time for Kritagnyata. Let us offer gratitude. Let us offer Kritagnyata at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and join this satsang. Let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Namaskar. In a few days, I will be informing regarding the Gita satsang. I'm sorry, I have not been able to work on it actually, because that busy thing in office has spilled over to this week also. So anyway, in another 2-3 days, I suppose I will have things in place and we can decide about that satsang also. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining in. If there is anything that anybody has to say or share, please go ahead. We have about 2 minutes time.
Akka, I just wanted to share one thing.
Yeah.
Actually, when I used it's just like my own experience or insight I felt. Initially, we used to hear these kind of stories which comes about daya, and generally it is related to hunger, starving, and people, giving away their portion of food. And I always used to listen and understand only at the surface. Okay, they are great people, giving away when they are hungry and achieving, the blessings and grace of Lord. But recently in Kali Yuga, people say, oh, they are very generous. But when we actually think about it, even if we are generous, what we are giving away is only like something which is already extra, which we don't need. That portion of the thing, it's not really something we need. Forget about needing now. Even if it's like going to be like today night or tomorrow or even this week, I don't know, we will still have some hitch to give away. We'll be like, I only need it for evening or next week or some next year or something. So
Correct.
giving away the portion that I need now is
Mm,
like one level difficult. And when you're actually hungry, food and hunger is like a very basic instinct and basic need of a human being.
mm,
So giving away when you're hungry the food that you want to eat, when your body is demanding it, I think that is like another level. And when you have starved for few days, I
yeah,
think that's like next level, which is unthinkable and very difficult to imagine. And I
true.
realized it only very late. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to share that insight, because
very nice.
we used to understand very surface level. Only when I
Correct.
gave it a little thought, I realized, oh God,
Yeah,
it's like something
yeah,
unimaginable.
true.